chance to seal it. It's done. It's Georgie Kelly. Rotherham United's pathway back to the Championship is opening up.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to New York Talk. This is the Rotherham United podcast during the World Cup. Thank you for joining us. We will be covering the World Cup opening up. Any Rotherham news we can find, but I don't think there is any. World Cup news. And there's been a few bit, including the first opening game, which was the first game. We'll cover all that, and we'll have a look at England's game on Monday afternoon, who we think is going to start, mixed in a wealth of research on the game. So we'll be an expert, and Mick will allow you all to be an expert by the end of the episode as well. Thank you for joining us, Mick. How are you doing?
I'm all right, mate. Are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Danny, how are you doing?
I'm not too bad, thank you.
Good stuff. And we have our debutant, Tom Eyre, is joining us. Thank you for joining us, Tom.
Oh, no worries. I'm excited. It's a privilege.
Cheers, mate. So let's start with the football. There's non-football stuff to talk about today, which we will cover again from the FIFA president later on. But let's talk about the actual football that happened on the actual football pitch. And Danny, I have to start with you, I'm afraid.
Of course you do.
Danny's pick for the Dark Horse has had one of the worst opening days for a host nation ever at a World Cup. Danny, just talk to me about how bad Qatar were. Go on.
In terms of the World Cup nation hosting it and how negative people have talked about this World Cup, it's been the perfect opener for the host nation. In terms of my prediction, it's been the worst start for the opening for the host nation. Because, in all honesty, lads, it looked like even Doncaster could have beaten them today. They were so disorganised, and they got let off with an offside call, which I think has puzzled like half of the planet as to why. I now understand why it was given, but the absolute shambles of review from the officials and letting the crowd and the people watching on telly know what was happening made everybody think, well, why is he giving it offside when there's a player in a red shirt behind him? Yeah, I'm not fussed. I'm just looking forward to when the Netherlands play him and batter him. That'll be quite funny.
Yeah. I suppose, Tommy, much like you're all going to be like us, I didn't know what to expect from Qatar. I know they won the Asia Cup, but there's a massive lack of depth in that, obviously, that continental competition. Were you surprised at Qatar's levels, how bad they were compared? Because Ecuador aren't exactly world beaters, are they? So it surprised me how bad they were.
I don't know. I thought Ecuador I don't know. I thought Ecuador were the dark horses coming into this. You know, they've got 3 Brighton players, I think, and you know they were a good side. They they scored 3 good goals. You know, I think the offside call, I agree with Danny. I think looking back at it now, it's like, yeah, you can see why they gave it, but at the time it seemed very, very dodgy. And obviously they got let off with that Qatar, and then, it was just by then on, it was just a point of how many, like Danny said, they were disorganized. They were, shambolic at times, but got to give credit to Ecuador. They went there and beat them. So, it's an interesting group with Senegal and Netherlands yet to play them, and should be interesting to say the least.
Yeah. So go through the comments. We have YouTubers with us, Kim Haywood, and Dave Lawson, thank you for joining us. Simon Thor says, right, chaps, enthused me. I'm decidedly underwhelmed after the opening game, and says hello to Tom as well. John Morella, Birmingham fan, is only here to listen to Mick talk us through the VAR disallowed goal. So let's deal with that with Mick. So just for anybody that's unaware, it is the right decision in the end. There has to be more than one player between the goal and the ball for it to be not offside. There was only one player because the goalkeepers had an absolute journey. It makes it offside. Very unclear from the FIFA coverage and everything else. VAR got it right, Mick, but there's some serious communication issues.
Right. Well, first of all, I didn't see the first half of the game, so I've not seen the run up to it. Okay. So that's the first thing I would say. But it's offside, so they've come to the right decision. However, there are about 5 or 6 passages of play after that, before the ball hits the back of the net, which to me seems I don't know. I don't understand the offside rule. I don't claim to understand it. So I can't really give an explanation for it. I know this is a football podcast. I know I've been doing a football podcast for 2 or 3 years now. I'm watching football for quite a massive part of my 57 years, but I still don't understand the offside rule. This week, maybe next week it'll change, and I'll get back into it. But from the images I've seen, when the goalkeeper comes out, he's got his leg offside, hasn't he?
Yes.
So I guess they've come to the right decision ultimately, but because there's so much play going on after that, then it starts to get cloudy for me. But if that's how they're going to play it, as long as it's consistent throughout the tournament, then that's fine. Play it that way. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is, isn't it? You don't expect clarity from anything involving FIFA, do you? Before we even start looking at the rules of the game. So yeah, I can see. I mean, I noticed. I did see all the tinfoil hats come straight out as soon as that happened.
What did you expect?
Well, exactly. Yeah. But
Ecuador haven't followed the script. Give it offside. Make it up.
Yeah. But given how Qatar played for the rest of the game, I think clinging on to any hope that they were going to get anything out of it was, well, I'm going to say futile, but
they did have a good chance first half. To be fair, he should have buried it first
At
half.
the very end.
Yeah, the very end of the first half, he should have buried that header. And 2-1 at half time. It's a different game with the fans behind you, so you never know. You mean Qatar? That could just be I'm not an expert on them, I'll say that, but that could just be a one-off, and they could have just been absolutely shambolic at the back. And going forward, they're actually not too bad, So we'll have to see. Definitely the home nation will help. I know fans can't score for them and whatnot, but being there and the atmosphere, it's got to drive them somehow. And it'd be exciting to see them against a team like the Netherlands that will pick them apart, but just that driving inner belief might actually help them. So yeah, but that's obviously going to go out the window when Netherlands beat them 5-0 and I look like a right idiot, but we'll see.
Yeah. They struggled, and I thought second half, because I think Tom's right. If they get a goal before after, it may well be a very different game. But towards end, Ecuador were just toying with, weren't they? It became a complete non-contest. Ecuador could have got a couple more if they turned gear on, but they just never needed to. They just managed the game perfectly.
Yeah, I think Ecuador properly got game management on it, didn't they? They just went, we're 2-0 up, they're not really threatening us that badly. We'll just control the game and conserve energy for the next game that we've got. And in that sort of heat, that's what you are going to do. If you've got 2 goals in the first half and played like you deserve 3, then you are going to slow it down in the second half and just keep them at arm's length. And that's exactly what they did. So, yeah, fair play to Ecuador on that one. Is it too late to change my answer?
Yes, I'm afraid.
You know the rules, man.
Damn.
Yeah, I'm afraid it is. S6 Miller's with us and Paul Brock. John Morell says it was 4 phases of play before the goal is scored. Sorry, but that's daft. Should have been a goal. I'm gutted. My £3 bet on the host is down the drain. I was told it was a dead cert. They would win. Yeah,
I think we were all told that, weren't we?
Yeah. All the Qatari fans apparently left at basically half time. I'll be honest, I don't really know what they're expecting, Tom. I watched the result. I read about their preparation for the World Cup, and apparently they've been together as a group for 6 months, having played no competitive games.
Right.
I mean, they've just played friendlies for 6 months.
Yeah,
That's not great preparation, is it? You need to be in games that matter.
No, absolutely.
You could tell they were ring rusty.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, like you said, it's just a recipe for disaster, isn't it? Playing friendly matches and against each other and stuff. It's not going to get you in the mindset. It's not going to get you in the match sharpness. I think every football fan knows that pre-season's nothing to to look on in great regard, and it's the same with this. You can't go straight from pre-season into the World Cup, especially on the back of every other nation playing the league for the past 4 or 5 months. And at a high level as well. You've got some high level players in that Ecuador side, and going into it, they've underestimated it, and I don't know why, I don't know how, but they have. And like you say, in 6 months of friendlies, it's not going to do anything for them. It's just going to if anything, put him down. It's going to put him into a, more of a lackadaisical kind of attitude and more of a, shambolic defending and just being everywhere. And it's, maybe this game was a wake up call. Who knows? But I don't see it.
No, their coach he's a former Barcelona youth coach, but he's never, as far as I know, he's never. This is essentially his first senior job, which again, you need more than that. You've got to have more than that at a World Cup. For me, anyway. I don't know. They've had 12 years to plan for this, haven't they? Since they won it, they knew they were hosts, they knew they were going to qualify. Get some. I'm sure Sven's around. I'm sure Sven's hanging around somewhere. They could have got him in for a brief period, couldn't they?
They've had 12 years to sort out this World Cup, and still the facilities aren't finished.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll come to that. Yeah. Philox says, apparently Ivan Toney had 1,000 on the VAR disallowed goal. No, he didn't. That's a joke. A good one, though, Phil. I like it.
Yeah, good one.
Any other topics you want to pick up from the Qatar-Ecuador game?
Anyone?
I thought it was good with Valencia. He took both goals, but that header was a very, very good header.
Really?
Yeah.
Honestly? Come on. It's looking the opposite way. It comes off the side of his head onto his shoulder and manages to find back at net. I mean, Dion Dublin's raving about what a good goal it is or what a good finish is. No, it's not. It's not a good finish.
Matt, you've set him off.
I know. I thought I was going to set him off in a minute.
I'll say the penalty was a penalty. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you want us to think it was a good finish?
The header, yeah.
Difficult.
I thought so.
I mean,
As a striker would tell you, if you get contact on it and it goes in the right direction, it's a good shot. So for me, it's a good shot.
Listen, it's a goal. It's scored, and it was fully deserved as well. I have no issue with that. But to say it were an excellent finish is stretching it a bit, I think.
I disagree, but that's fine.
It was an excellent finish for it to skim off his head and go in. That's why it's an excellent finish.
It skimmed off his head and then onto his shoulder. And then
exactly, so it's a good shot because he still managed to get it on target from his shoulder.
Come on!
If Tom Eaves does that, you're telling me it's a great finish.
Listen, mate. At the moment, if one goes in off Tom Eaves' backside, it's a great finish. Anyway, for that lad at the moment, but yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah. You can't catch a break.
He came off injured though, which is obviously a slight issue for him. Potentially going forward for Ecuador in general, but. That puts them in the box seat for second place, I would have thought, which is key for England, obviously. We play second place. Should we win our group, we'll play second place. Right, let's move on, Mick. Let's move on to...
Have you covered, and forgive me if you have you covered the fact that we've had the opening game of a World Cup finals and basically to a half-empty stadium?
It was half-empty at the end.
Yeah, well, it was half-empty from half-time.
It was, yeah. They left in the 2-0.
I mean, why?
Because they were promised that they got a good team.
Yeah. I mean, it's another indication.
They're not.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So why is it there?
Exactly.
Oh, sorry.
Exactly.
My apologies.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Put the tinfoil hat away.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the stuff behind it. As Danny says, there's a lot of stuff there that's not finished. It's still in VAR, thankfully.
We sure.
But, well, we hope anyway. We've got to talk. We can't talk about the World Cup without talking about what's going on in the background. We've got to talk about Gianni Infantino's hour-long monologue, which was Saturday, on the eve of the World Cup, on the eve of the greatest tournament in the world. The FIFA president decided to tell everybody he felt like everything under the sun. It was one of the strangest speeches I've ever heard, Mick. And we've all heard different types of politicians speak and different type of people speak in certain circumstances. Just trying to sum up, you've got a much bigger experience in life than me. How high is it up there as the strangest things you've ever heard?
Well, you've got to put it into some sort of context, haven't you? And
it's difficult.
People like Infantini, and there are others in other sports.
Infantino,
whatever his name is, I don't know. Infantino, then whatever. and there are people in other sports across sort of global sports across the world who are very similar in that they're essentially trying to polish a turd. You know, that is what he's trying to do. He's got himself a great big steaming bucket of muck, and he doesn't know what to do with it. And it doesn't matter how much PR gloss you try and put on it. It's never going to work. And there is a man basically desperately trying to tell everybody who's outside in the pitch black that it's midday. You know, he's absolutely desperately trying to convince everybody that this is a great tournament. This is a great thing. It's fantastic. It's wonderful. When everybody can see that it's big, brown, and steaming. It is essentially where he is, isn't he? So he's between a rock and a hard place. No matter what he says.
Well,
I'm not defending him here in any way. I am not, because it's completely his fault that this has gone ahead. It's not his fault that it was given to Qatar and everything else, but it's completely his fault that it's gone ahead and he's allowed it to go ahead. And he's just, I'm going to say clutching at straws, but he's not even clutching at straws, is he? It's just, no. Can you imagine the FIFA PR department? Can you imagine having to work in there?
The guy sat next to him is Brian Swanson. Now, anybody is a Sky Sports subscriber will know that Brian Swanson was formerly of Sky Sports, the head of news. If there's a big break in sports, Brian Swanson was the man they always went to. And he sat there next to him and he literally defended Infantino at the time. And I couldn't quite believe that I was hearing that a proper journalist, who we know has been a proper journalist, is sat there lapping it up.
But how much is he being paid?
I know, but I get that. But
listen, you've got to separate these two things. You've got to separate the sport itself and then the politics that sit behind it. Yeah, and it goes to other sports as well. And I'm thinking specifically at the moment of Formula One and the FIA. And you know, FIFA. I think my understanding is that FIFA's PR department, they shared it with Red Bull. You know what I mean? Because they're all trying to defend something that everybody can see on television is an absolute steaming pile of crap, but yet they're telling us that it's not. You know what I mean? They've got to try and defend what they've done, and they can't. Nobody can, because it's just unforgivable. Yeah. So listen, it's great to see. Fingers crossed, over the next 4 weeks, we see a lot more of him sweating.
He was loving it though. He essentially commentated the players onto the pitch at the start of the game. It was embarrassing.
But I'll give you exactly the same situation, right? You've got, and I'll go back again to Formula One. You've there got Christian Horner doing essentially exactly the same thing about his Red Bull team, telling us that day is night, telling us that we're going to work as a team, we're all together, we're all this, we're all that, we'll do absolutely everything we can for something to happen. But then we all watch it, and none of those things happen. And then afterwards, he tells us that they did. And that's it's essentially the same thing with FIFA. None of this stuff happened, or none of this corruption happened. Everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be brilliant. Everything's going to be wonderful. It's not wonderful. It's all everything they tell us that's going to happen doesn't happen. They take away certain things that they say that they were going to have, but then tell us that everything's fine. And it's like, how do we? At what point did we become as football supporters, Formula One supporters, whatever, cricket supporters, or whatever it is? At what point did we become so gullible and so stupid that people actually expect us to believe it? Did I miss that memo somewhere, or I don't know? It's bizarre.
No, it is.
And welcome to the Mick Ranks, Tom.
Thank you.
Your first one. So yeah, just recap some of the nonsense he came out with, and it's almost, if it wasn't serious, it'd be funny.
There's one bit which is my favourite bit, by the way.
I might. Well, we'll see what he claimed that The speech essentially went that today I feel, and he felt Qatari and African,
Yeah.
gay, disabled. It felt like a migrant worker. He claimed that he knew what discrimination was because he was bullied in school for having ginger hair.
That's my favourite bit.
I have a question about this, and this is obviously not the point. He's got black eyebrows.
I didn't notice that.
Well,
Brilliant.
And I'm not an expert on this, but my eyebrows match my hair. I don't know. I'm not saying he's lying. I'm just saying the facts don't quite add up.
How dare you suggest that a FIFA official will be telling lies? That's absolutely outrageous.
Oh no, he had brown hair. He had brown.
There you
hair.
go. So he's a liar. Anyway,
he's a liar. He is a liar.
Yeah, Danny.
The one thing that came into my head, like when he mentioned the whole thing about, now that you've just pointed out he has dark eyebrows, the one thing that just came into my head was when Shaq said, "I don't think you have the facilities for that, big man."
Yeah.
which is right. Right, just take it as he said it.
Yeah.
I know what he's like to be discriminated against because I had red hair. Right, fair enough. I think gingers do get a lot of stick, right? Fair enough. Let's put all the cards on the table. They do get a lot of stick, right? But to make the comparison of I was discriminated against for having red hair, and in the country that's hosting the World Cup, it's illegal to be in the same sex relationship, and that's the discrimination they're having to face. To put those two together and go, oh, I understand what it's like to be discriminated against. No, he does not. Not in the slightest. Same with the whole thing about I feel like a migrant worker today. I feel like this is Alex Scott hit it perfectly. He has no idea what it's like to be a migrant worker because he's been sat comfy for the vast majority of his life.
He's no idea what it's like to be a worker.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the one thing I will say, I have a lot of disagreements with the BBC, and it generally involves me shouting at the television, right? But they're starting coverage about the whole thing behind the World Cup and what the FIFA president's, whatever his name is, said about it was spot on. They gave FIFA and Qatar both barrels to begin with, but then spoilt it by putting Qatarian propaganda on afterwards about the World Cup. The whole thing about, well, I've been playing football in this country for 7 years and I'm female. Why were there only 4 of you at the training ground then? Where's the rest of the team? You know what I mean? Yeah. It wound me up so much. I was so wound up. I was just howling with laughter at what the FIFA president said because it couldn't be real. Surely it's a parody and they've used one of those face transfer filters. Surely. Because that is a man who is leading the World Football Association and he's come out with that. Like, good grief. Someone give him a shut down because he's just waffled on for an hour and not said anything, but also said a lot about where the morals are. Oh, dear.
Yeah, it shocks me that somebody's greenlit because especially today I feel he kept looking down at his notes. So somebody's clearly said, yes, go and say that. That sounds good. How has somebody said yes to that? It's just, Tom, I'll give us your thoughts and then we'll maybe talk about it.
No, honestly, it's the fact that he's a middle class white Italian from Switzerland.
Italian Swiss.
He said he was Italian, which apparently you bullied for being Italian in Switzerland. I didn't know that was a thing, but you know, I'm reading more about what he's saying, and he was saying things like Switzerland as a country has progressed, Qatar can too. Qatar's giving migrants the opportunity to do everything legally rather than come in, as illegal migrants. But it's just a lot of waffle. It is just a lot of waffle, and I agree with Mick. I agree with that. He's literally just trying to say it for the sake of saying it. Everyone can see what's happening. Everyone can see the absolute disgrace that Qatar is and the absolute atrocity that this World Cup might become. And he's just trying to defend himself. And you know what? I kind of feel for him as well because he wasn't even the one that. Well, I don't think he was involved in actually Qatar becoming the host nation. So it's not a great staple. And I saw Neville said something. Gary Neville said something this morning about it being, he is possibly the worst image for this World Cup, and to be fair, I think I agree with him. I think, I don't think any of them do well, to be honest. But having said that, I know, Danny, you brought up Alex Scott before saying things good about Qatar, but then I think, so she said something about the best thing to do would be for her to sit at home and watch it, or she said something like that. I didn't really watch
exactly.
But now she's there and she's getting paid and everything. And then Dion Dublin in comms seemed a bit repressed. I don't really like Dublin talking about football, but when the goal went in and he was going on about the offside call, he kept saying, I'm not mocking it. I'm not mocking it. And then something about as well, there was another, like 20 seconds later, there was another offside and it was like tight, but it was offside. And he went, I can see that being given, when he cleared out the keeper, and I can see that being given. And then he instantly changed his mind to, oh no, yeah, that's clearly offside. It's almost like there's a whole propaganda around it where it has to be right every time. And it does seem like a lot of the pundits and everything are just a bit more reserved and everything. It does seem like a more reserved tournament. It seems like it's more of a political tournament, which in winter as well, it's nothing. It's doing nothing for me, this whole tournament. This day today has done nothing for me. I watched the game and I just thought, meh, I could not at all care. It was just such a political statement. It's so just the football's football. It can be a crap game. It can be a great game. It can be, but in terms of the politics and it being in winter and whatnot, it's just, I'm not getting excited for it. I don't know about you guys, but I did my fantasy today and that was about it.
Yep, I agree completely. I mean, like you said, I don't like the Dublin commenting at the best of times, but for that match, it felt like he was commentating with a gun held to his head.
Yeah,
that's probably what the VAR official felt like as well. Because, like you said, it just feels oppressed and they're treading on eggshells all the time because they don't want to upset them. Same with Alex Scott. Yeah, she was right with what she said, but if she was truly like an advocate of, what she's preaching, she wouldn't be there. She'd legit gone, you know what, I'm not getting paid for this. But
she'd make a stand against it, but she's not. And whether she's done it for the money or whether she's done it for another reason, I don't know. And I don't judge her for whatever she's done. But you can't come out and say one thing and sway towards one political statement and then go and do the exact opposite. So in terms of that, I don't agree with. But Lineker's thing at the beginning was quite, well, to the point and quite good. That was a good thing for the BBC to say. But again, it's a case of how long is this going to go on for? How long is it? Before England's game tomorrow, we're going to get a rundown of all of this Infantini comments, and and it's the same again. It's not about the football; it's about the politics behind it. It's just boring. It gets boring. It does get boring. Sometimes it's funny to laugh at, but sometimes it just gets boring, and it's just I just want to watch the football. And that offside goal did not help in the slightest with the controversy behind match fixing it. At the time, obviously now looking back at it, it was an offside, but at the time, God, it was match fixing at its finest.
Well, go on, mate. You were going to say something.
I was just going to say you've got to have a certain amount. Well, you haven't got to, but I have a certain amount of sympathy for the presenters on this and the commentators, because they're particularly the commentators, because you're doing that unscripted as things happen. If you put one word out of place, you are going to get crucified through social media, through the mainstream media, through the press, etc. You've got to be so careful. So I have a certain amount of sympathy for him, and to be fair, much as I accept that they get paid a lot more than we do, these people are doing a job. They have a job to do, and in reality, the BBC, ITV, any other television station from across the globe is not going to boycott the World Cup. It's not going to happen. They're
not going to. What they could do is have the studio in the UK.
Yeah,
still some of the commentators. But anyway. But anyway, go on.
No, that's it. We've gone on far too long about the politics of it, and
it won't be the last time this tournament. I am absolutely.
It certainly will not. So let's spread it out over 4 weeks.
Yeah. Let's go through some comments. Simon Thorne says, joking aside, yesterday's speech was corporate virtue signal that was a fail on every single level. John Morell says, in all seriousness, football is not the silver bullet that will solve the issues in Qatar. Let's be honest, nothing will change in that country once the World Cup is over. It's money. That's all it is. Simon Donald comes back with a Twitter user. In terms of who would let the speech go, the Twitter user in the office who wrote the speech was patting themselves on the back thinking they were Martin Luther King Jr. too. Yeah. And John Morell says, a speech writer for UEFA probably wrote the whole thing. Yeah. UEFA himself. We should put out, as Paul Botwright says, that we have some minor Rotherham news, and Chio is playing for Ireland.
Hey.
I'm going to check the live scores, and the last time I checked, they were drawing 0-0 at half-time to Malta. No, they're winning. Callum Robinson has scored. So good lad, Chio. I don't know how that's going to affect him joining up with the guys in Cyprus. I don't know if he'll get some time off before then. We'll keep an eye on that, to be honest with you. We don't know, is the answer. Right, let's move forward. Let's move forward to the England kickoff tomorrow, 1 o'clock. Well, if you listen on Monday, it's the day of. It's Iran. The second time ever England have apparently faced an Asian nation, a team from the Asian Confederation. The last time was in 1982. Mick, you were around. Do you remember who that was?
I'm going to go Tunisia.
They're African.
Oh, all right then. In that case,
it's Kuwait. It was Kuwait. Not a well-known footballing nation nowadays, anyway.
It's not far away.
When was that? 1982, did you say?
Yes.
Well, that's strange. 9 years later, we out with an invasion there. Funny that.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
Football. Hello, there's tanks now.
We all do ref watch, and this guy has never refed us before, but I quite enjoyed the fact it's a Christmas World Cup and Rafael Klaus is refereeing us. That tickled me. He is Brazilian, surprisingly. He has never refed at a major tournament, as far as I can tell. Certainly never refed England before. Let me ask you on the referee today, mate. The game you saw, I thought the referee today was very, very hands-on. And I didn't think it was necessary to be that hands-on as much. And if that's something to continue, it's going to stifle the game a reasonable amount. Yeah,
potentially. It doesn't really start to take shape till first 3 or 4 games, does it? We start to see what they're going to concentrate on, what they're not going to concentrate on, what they're going to allow, what they're not going to allow. So we're just going to have to wait and see on that. I don't know much hope out, quite frankly, but that's just me being cynical. So we perhaps have a better opportunity to discuss that on Thursday when we've had a few games to watch.
Yes. John Morell says, Mick, you went to the same geography school as Jack Grealish. Then.
No, hang on a minute. You're not telling me Jack Grealish went to school. I'm not having that. I'm not wearing that.
Mick, remember, Grealish plays for our team, remember?
Yeah, exactly. He's one of us now for this podcast period. Simon Thorne, one more non-footballing issue. Simon Thorne says, will Bale, Kane, Van Dijk still wear the One Love armband if FIFA yellow card? Now, again, this is my non-footballing point, which we're briefly going to cover. England, Wales, and some other nations have said they're going to wear essentially a band on their arm, which is it's a rainbow armband, basically. There is rumours that FIFA will at least fine England or fine the teams that wear them. There are rumours tonight, although I don't believe them, that they could receive a yellow card before the game kicks off for wearing that. Now, I don't think that's actually true. I think that's rumours just circulate. I don't know what the grounds would be, to be honest with that. But that's something that will obviously become clear over the next 24 hours, because obviously England will play on Monday. So we're no point comment on that, because I don't think that's true, but we will find out.
Well, I would argue that there must be a rule or a law within the book that says the captain has to wear an armband.
Yes,
to signify that they are captain. So whether that actually specifies what is written on that armband is another matter. So we'll have to wait and see. But like you, I suspect that's just rumour.
The Euros, Germany, when they played Hungary, did wear a rainbow armband. There was no booking, but I think they did get fined. I suspect it'll be fine. Who cares about a fine? FIFA pay England, so FIFA are paying their own fine, essentially. So don't worry about it, FIFA. A few more stats. In the first meeting between England and Iran ever, England have only won one of their last 3 opening games at the World Cup, which was the last time against Tunisia 4 years ago. We've got a semi-final on that one, so that might be positive. What do we think? So we start with you, Tom, on this one. Iran are relatively highly ranked. They've obviously got their own political issues, so they might be in a bit unsettled situation. But England's chances on the first game only, how do you rate them?
I'm going to go for a 0-0, genuinely.
Nice and positive.
I know. Well, there's so many variables in this tournament. It's ridiculous. I mean, if you look at the teams themselves, you've got Iran, who are very good actually defensively, weirdly enough. Like they hardly ever concede. If you look at their past couple of games, they hardly ever concede. And with England's style of play, we don't often score many. And it's not to say like, this is a negative view or anything. I do think England will do well in this tournament. I just think, especially after watching that inside view of their training, how absolutely knackered they are going to be from the heat. It's such a big issue. They seem to have one training session of very minimal intensity and be blowing very profusely and need fans very, very quickly. So in terms of actual footballing ability, how much that's going to come into play is I genuinely do not know, because I feel like fitness and I feel like Iran will acclimatise better to the environment than England players will, and it would be an interesting watch. But in terms of actual footballing ability, Iran are very defensive. England can be very attacking. So in terms of that, I can see in terms of genuine football ability, I can see England coming away with a 2-0 win, whatever, a comfortable win. But in terms of actually acclimatising to the environment and just in general, the first game is such a big pressure. Everyone thought we were going to beat Tunisia very easily, but that came from a Harry Kane last-minute header. So you never know with England. You really don't. And honestly, I really hope we win, obviously. But in terms of actually getting acclimatized and actually playing football, I don't think we'll be threatened, but I don't think we'll be threatening is the issue.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Iran's record at the World Cup is it's poor, obviously. They're not historically a very good footballing team. They qualify on some irregular basis. They only have 2 wins. One of them was last time in the 2018 World Cup against Morocco. And they also beat America in 1998, which I think would have gone down quite nicely back in Iran, to be honest with you.
It was quite funny, that. I do remember
that. What is worth noting, obviously, they beat Morocco. I think Morocco probably finished bottom of that group. They did nearly beat Portugal 4 years ago, and they were very unlucky. I think they had a fairly close offside call, which didn't go for them, which then meant they still drew against Portugal, who were European champions. So this is not a muggy team. This is not, a random Asian team that have popped up, Danny. This is a proper team. It's easy for us to look at it and go, it's just Iran, don't worry about it. We've got to be very careful. And Gareth Southgate will, with the team, will. This is not just rocking up. There will be proper stuff done by the England team because they are professionals, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Iran is one of them teams where just don't write them off completely. Just like you just said with those records there, they are a team that knows what they're doing. They're not just there just to be cannon fodder, which I'm starting to think Qatar are now.
No, the dark horses, then, mate. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
dark horses.
Yeah, of course they are. But yeah, I think people going in with the expectation that England will steamroll Iran will get a big reality check against them. I'm not going into it thinking we'll steamroll them. I'd be happy with your prediction there, Tom, at a 0-0. Maybe even a score draw potentially for me. And yeah, it's just one of them games. It's just like get Iran out the way quickly because it's the team that will be, it'll give us a good game. It's the opening game where the pressure is, but we have got the quote unquote bigger games to come up against the US and Wales. It might come down to us having to win to win Wales to qualify. So I'm sort of happy that game's last because that's the really heightened game. Yeah, it would be nice to beat Iran, but with your likes of James Maddison and Kyle Walker, I think it is, who are still out for the opening game. It's a good game to get acclimatized to everything, B, work out the system you're going to we're going to play in the heat and in the stadiums effectively because they are air conditioned. So it's the working it out game, and I think we've got quite lucky that it's Iran as our working out game because that's the one we can go right. We'll take it steady, just don't concede, and we should be all right, in my opinion. But yeah, I've no expectation of this game. It's like if we don't lose, we're all right, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, they did make it to the semi-finals of the Asia Cup. But the last Asia Cup was in 2019, so again, we're 3 years ago since that. A lot of things have happened in Iran since then. So they have lost only one of the last 14 games. Again, the Asian Confederation is not massively strength in depth, but still, you've still got to. I think they've only lost to South Korea. We know South Korea are a decent team. Mick, we'll ask your prediction later on, but what are your anticipations for what to expect in terms of as a general game? It's going to be, like Tom says, the heat may be an issue. It's in the middle of the day. It's not an evening kickoff, is it? So that could play a part.
Yeah, it potentially could. I mean, we traditionally start very slowly in tournaments, don't we?
Yeah.
You know, our opening games, it feels like, and I know you're the stats man, so you might tell me differently, but it feels like our opening game of every single tournament we're playing is a proper damp squib. You know, nothing tends to ever happen where they scrape a draw or lose by an odd goal. It's just how it feels. Having said that, I think we should and probably will have far too much quality for Iran, with the greatest respect, because you know they will have prepped properly for this tournament, unlike the hosts. And you know they have got some pedigree, not massive, but they have got some, and the conditions will suit them obviously because it's in their region of the world, their area of the world. So you know they'll be far more used to playing in these sorts of conditions. So they're not to be taken lightly by any stretch of the imagination. But we should have enough to get past them. So I'm hoping that that's the case, because we absolutely do not want to be relying on beating Wales to get anywhere, because that is going to be a tough game. So we need to get the job done before we come up against Wales, for me.
Yeah. John Morrell says it's England will be rubbish and we'll need to beat Wales in the final game to qualify. He's actually glad he's at work and will miss it. Simon Thorne says, generally no idea which England will turn up tomorrow, but he's got his Millers/England reversal bucket hat on, so he's happy either way. Paul Rock had questions about the air-conditioned stadiums. I don't know, to be honest with you. I had heard that they had, but then I heard they scrapped it because of one reason. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. Any of you got an idea on that?
There was in the stadium today. There was definitely air conditioning around the outside that you could see. That seemed to be on the pitch, but how much that affects the players, you'll never know unless you're on the pitch. So it'd be interesting to see if it actually does have an impact.
Sounds environmentally friendly, doesn't it?
There's another rant about that with the CO2 from this World Cup. I think it was Lancaster University that did a study on it, and there's something like however many millions of metric tons of CO2 there is. I think something like 10 million metric tons of CO2 from the construction of this World Cup alone, which makes it the most expensive World Cup ever and the most uncarbon neutral World Cup ever, even though they've claimed it is carbon neutral. It just gets better and better, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They are aware that this is in the Middle East. The Middle East is based on the sale of oil. Mm-hmm. The wealth contained within that area of the world is based on the sale of oil. They are aware of that, aren't they, I assume? So that comes as a surprise to who?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But to spend 222 billion pounds on a World Cup when the next one down is only 19 billion, it's insane.
Danny, you're not factoring into that how many billions of pounds are sat in Sepp Blatter's bank account and all his
That's
mates.
very true. That's very
not
true.
Factored that in, so you have to do that. So therefore, it's pretty much on a par with all the others.
John Wells says air-conditioned stadium with the roof open, brilliant. Yeah. It's like having the heating on and the door open. It's just stupid. But anyway, Not the only stupid thing about this World Cup. But anyway, we've gone on another non-footballing rant again, haven't we? Right. So let's talk about some suggestions for lineups. Now, we normally go 4-2-3-1 for games where we are a bit more are the better team. We cannot in games where we need to defend a bit more. Southgate often goes for that extra defender and 3 at the back. I am expecting 4-2-3-1. So let's just play on that, unless you guys have got any objections to that. Let's play on the 4-2-3-1 formation.
I need a pen.
Pickford starts in goals. Anyway, I think this is pretty cut and dry. To be honest with you. Any questions on Pickford's starting position? He seems safe and sealed, doesn't he?
Yeah. Can't argue with it, really.
So
I would like to see Ramsdale get a go at some point, but I think Pickford always does well when he puts on an England shirt, so I can't really complain.
I think if we're already through about Wales again, I think we'll see a goalkeeping job.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I do agree. Ramsdale over Pope any day of the week, personally.
Yeah.
Now here comes the part where people will probably argue with each other. We've only got a couple of right backs in the squad this time, which makes a change.
Three. Say again?
We've got three right backs. You've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, Kieran Trippier, and Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker can play as a centre-back, obviously. Kyle Walker has been nursing injury, so I don't think Kyle Walker will be fully available to start.
Yes.
You've only got one choice then, haven't you?
You've got Trent or Trippier.
You've got Trippier, yeah. I mean, there's only one choice. Come on.
I knew that was coming at some point.
I knew that was coming.
Oh, dear.
Sorry to any Liverpool sympathisers out there. Mick will not pick any of your players.
Listen, mate, if they're any good,
problem. But my comeback to that would be is against Iran. Can you allow a bit more freedom to have a bit more creativity from Trent against something like Iran rather than quarterfinals against France, for example?
I would argue that he doesn't bring any creativity anymore. That would be my argument. He
is out of form.
He is bang out of form, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you wanted to take some supporters out behind the back of the net from his crosses, happy days. If you got somebody misbehaving at back of the goal, put him on and he'll take him out. But other than that,
okay. Mick doesn't want Trent in.
No.
Danny, what do you reckon?
I'd go for Trippier as well. To be fair, Trippier suits the 4 at the back system a lot better than Trent would. Trent's definitely more your 3 at the back, and he's your wider player, whereas Trippier's more suited to that traditional right back role, shall we say? Yeah,
Tom, what do you can you got any
arguments against that? No, Trippier all day for me. Even in a 5-back or whatever, I'd still put Trips there. I think he's based on form, especially as well. He's just the best right back that he's been at the minute. Yeah, he's been phenomenal.
John Morell says, has to be Trippier. He knows the definition of the word tackle and track your runner. Correct. Left-hand side defence is going to be Luke Shaw. They don't have any other left backs as far as I can see. Obviously, Trippier can fill in there. So we're going to have Luke Shaw in there.
I like Luke Shaw for England. I think he plays really well for England. I think he does a really, really good job. Not so much for Man U, but certainly when he puts that English shirt on, he's quality for me.
Yeah, I agree. Then we have to fill in the centre backs. So you're picking from Eric Dyer, Harry Maguire, John Stones, and Ben White, and Conor Cody. To be fair to Conor Cody. Tom, I came to last. Is this first?
Is this who we want to play, or who we think will play? Because I've got two very different.
Go on, do both.
Team I want to play is not what will play. I think Stones is a guarantee. I think everyone can agree Stones is probably first choice centre back. And then for me, I think I'd pick Ben White, but I can't see Southgate putting Ben White in. I think he's going to put Harry Maguire in. I really do. He did a roulette in training. We'll move on. I don't know. I have no. With Harry Maguire, I wouldn't play him. I'd play Ben White, but Southgate seems to love him. And to be fair, the World Cup it is a slower game, isn't it? the heat, and you know, he might fit it a lot better. But again, for me, it has to be Ben White. Stones and Ben White for me.
The thing with Maguire is that he brings you that balance. He's naturally left-footed, and as far as I can tell from that squad, he's the only natural left-footer. So from a balance point of view, and like I said, for England, he's never done all wrong particularly, other than the odd moment.
In major competitions, we need to stick on the end of that.
Yes, all right.
Yeah,
he's a bit like Pickford, isn't he? For the most part, you can't really complain in a shot for the most part.
I feel quite bad for Harry Maguire because every time I hear his name, I think of the TikTok where he goes, "It's Harry Maguire," and it just sends me every time. But yeah, I agree. It should be Ben White next to Stones, but it's not. It's going to be Maguire because, like we said, he's done that thing in training. Southgate's eyes are lit up, and he's like, "Right, that's me back four sorted."
Yeah. You
know what?
As much as Southgate is loyal, I think
take it away.
Cool. Take it, mate.
Oh no, I was just going to say that the period of training was quite nice. It was quite a nice little move he did. So why not?
Yeah.
Sorry.
If he does that against Iran, I'm actually going to kill him.
Make anything to add on that?
No, I think you've got you've hit nail on the head. It will be Maguire and Stones, but it shouldn't be probably based on form.
Would you go White or would you go Dyer?
I probably would. Yeah,
Cody?
I probably would. The problem for Harry Maguire is that, with the greatest respect to the lad, I don't think he's international quality. I just don't think he is. But he may prove us wrong, and I hope he does. He has done well for himself, but I just feel like he's punching above his weight a little bit.
Yeah.
Apparently, John Morel says Maguire isn't even left-footed. I thought he was left-footed.
No,
shows me what I know. So he's right-footed. Ignore the balance question. Apparently, now ignore the balance nonsense. Get rid of him, Southgate.
Yeah.
There you go. So we ain't got a left-footed centre back in the squad, is what we're saying, which is a great idea for balance. Brilliant.
I can't think of one. Mings is the only one that pops into my head of the last couple years that is a left-footed centre back, and he's awful. So would never put him.
Eric Dyer, he's right-footed as well, isn't he?
Yeah,
it must be sort of penalty with right-foot, isn't it? Yeah.
He's not a bad shout actually. He's had a good season, but again,
he's another one that Southgate trusts as well, isn't he? He's a bit like Maguire. He trusts him.
Yeah.
Moving forward again, so you're going 4-2-3-1. So you're going to have two sitters. Again, I'll start with the obvious one. Declan Rice is going to be in there. Is anybody any arguments against Declan Rice? Because in England, it's been almost faultless, to be fair to him.
Yep.
He's definitely a tournament man with England, isn't he? We don't really see him during like Nations League and friendlies and stuff, but he just turns up, especially at the Euros. He just turned up and was more or less faultless throughout the whole tournament. So he's probably first name on team sheet for me because he just runs the midfield, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's a bit like Barlasser in a sense. Just his distribution isn't quite as long ping as Barlasser's in, but in terms of being the engine and in the midfields, he is like Barlasser. It looks a bit like him as well, doesn't he? But, quite thin, tall, and just very limmy, but in a good way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what you're saying is Declan Rice wishes he had Barlasser's passing range.
Yeah, and Barlasser wishes he was at Declan Rice's level of football. Can you imagine if he combined the two? That'd be deadly, wouldn't it?
Good. The question then comes next: who do you play alongside that? Now, if we're talking sitters, and obviously you're not going to put Mason Mount as a deep player, you're then really talking Jordan Henderson and Calvin Phillips. Mick, I'll come to you on this one. The problem with Calvin Phillips is he had an amazing Euros. He's probably played 10 games since then. He's barely played since the Euros, but he has started playing. I think he's played the last two games for Man City. Do you go, right, you're back playing, you're back fit, go, or do you say, right, Jordan Henderson's trusted, whatever. Let's get Phillips up to speed. What would you do with that one?
Well, what I would do is I would definitely put Phillips in. because he's playing. He is back playing. He's back playing full time. He's back playing in one of, if not, well, certainly one of the best teams in Europe, and the team that's absolutely in form. Jordan Henderson is playing at Liverpool at the moment. They are not. And he's not. To be fair, I don't think he's getting as much game time at Liverpool as he has done in the past either. So for me, Jordan Henderson is somebody that you can bring on later in the game to either shore up that midfield or just add a little bit more bite in there. So for me, Calvin Phillips and Declan Rice will be the two holding midfielders. I can't see anybody else. Having said that, I think he probably will play Henderson, to be honest. But for me, it should be Phillips and Rice.
Okay. John Morell says, Birmingham fan, if any of you don't pick Jude, we'll fall out. Can he play that deep? I don't watch him enough. I don't watch the German game enough. Can he? I thought he was a bit further forward than that.
I think he can play that deep. I think he has done in the past for England. I think if we play a 5-back, it's usually them two in front. But I do see the point of you want 2 6s. But I think I don't know, against, this is a chance for Southgate to say, look, I'm not this defensive park the bus kind of manager everyone thinks I am. I can play players like this. Like Bellingham is, there's that story that Birmingham academy, the reason he's number 22 is because he's a 9, he's a 10, he's an 8, he's a 6. He's when it all comes to 22, and that's what he is. He can play all those positions, and he's got something like 13, 14 goal contributions in 20 games, and it's 19 years old at the World Cup. Why not? Henderson obviously doesn't regularly. Neither of Phillips or Henderson regularly start for their club teams. Bellingham plays week in, week out Champions League football. I think if you ask him to play next to Rice, I think he'd do a job. I really do. Whether or not he will play him is a different matter, but that's what I'd personally do. I'd put Bellingham next to Rice.
I can't understand why you'd waste Bellingham that deep, frankly.
But do you think he'd play that deep though? Like,
no,
I know
is
he?
No.
I don't watch enough Bundesliga to actually understand what kind of player he is. But from what I gather, he is a ball carrier, and if you do give him the ball in the areas, he can drive you up the pitch, which Rice can do. Henderson not really. Phillips not really. They're more of a destroyer type players, engine room. Whereas Bellingham is, a ball carrier. He can turn defense into attack, and maybe that's what we're missing. Maybe that's maybe that's me being a bit naive and thinking this 19-year-old, it could be the best player on the pitch. But in my opinion, he possibly could be. He's shown it at Dortmund and in the Champions League that he can do it. So yeah, that's my personal opinion. But I do understand the likes of Phillips and Henderson getting a shout over him, especially in this formation and this team.
John Morell says, again, the Birmingham fan says he can play all midfield roles, like you said, Tom, and hence the 22. On the last 2 England games, Bellingham plays. Yeah, I agree. I thought, and it was one of the only few good players in the recent games, weren't it, that we'd had. Danny, where are you going from any of those? What are you doing?
For me, it depends on who you play in front of your quote-unquote midfielders, because the 3 advanced are your wingers and just your attacking midfielder in a sense. So it depends on who you play in front of it. If you want to have 2 out-and-out sitting defenders, then your options are basically Declan Rice, Jordan Henderson, and Calvin Phillips, really. Jude Bellingham, yes, is more of a ball-carrying player. He's done incredibly well at Dortmund. And I think you play Bellingham if you need that stronger connection between the sitting midfielder and your attacking line. That's when you bring Bellingham into that team. But if you've got more of an on-the-ball sort of player in the middle of that 3, then that's when you'd go for like Phillips or Henderson, for example. I'm trying to work out how I would play there and then build it that way. But in terms of what he'd bring to the team, I would have to say Bellingham. But then would he be sitting too deep, depending on who you play in front of him? That's the thing you have to work out. But for me, I'm going to have to go Bellingham, just through on the ball quality. And in the heat of Qatar, even though the stadiums might be air conditioned, if we're playing a slower paced game and he just carries the ball forward and pushes them back and creates that open space for himself, I think that would prove fruitful for us.
Yeah.
I've not had to sit and think today. You're making me think. I don't like it.
You know, Rotherham team, when we talk about Rotherham team, it almost picks itself, doesn't it? We haven't even talked about it this much.
Exactly, but because I don't watch Premier League football, because it's pants, or Bundesliga, because German, I don't know.
Okay, well, I'll give you an easy one. We'll move on to an easy one. Harry Kane's going to start front.
Yes.
There you go. That's an easy one. We've got one in bag. With or without the rainbow sleeve. Will be there.
Now, see, that's the talking point. Never mind predicting starting 11. Will Harry Kane wear his armband? Yes or no? I think he is.
He will. Definitely will. Right, let's move on to the three behind then. So, the three behind there. So, you essentially your options are Phil Foden, Jack Grealish, James Maddison not available because he's injured. Marcus Rashford, Saka, Raheem Sterling are basically your options. Now, we know Marcus Rashford is normally a striker, but he can play left or right on either side, really. He's been very good for England. Danny, this is a bit of a head scratcher, really, because there are some great players in there, but Mason Mount's the favourite, isn't he? Mason Mount, I didn't mention him, I mentioned him as a midfield. Mason Mount will probably start as well. Because, again, for England, he's always been pretty good.
Yeah, I need to try and squeeze Foden in there as well. John Morrell coming out with Saka, Mount and Foden. Yeah,
I quite like that.
Basically that, because, Mount's that more distributing sort of player that can play in front of Bellingham, so that's a nice connection between the two. Then, Saka, great young talent, wrongfully abused for missing his penalty against Italy. Just, it happens,
He's also come on so much under Arteta as well, Saka.
Yes.
He was a good player at Euros, but he's just gone up so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So he needs to go in there, and then Foden as well. Now, we don't like basing our things off FIFA on this channel because we actually watch real football. But in terms of Foden on FIFA, which is my only experience of him, he's very good. And I would have him in that attacking three behind the centre forward. Just because he'll cause problems, and he's very good on the ball. His haircut's shocking, but he's got a new one. I'm not sure, but I know his original one made him look.
Good
on.
No, sorry, I was just going to say I fully agree with the Saka, Mount, Foden. I think Foden left wing, Saka right wing, Mount in behind Kane, and I think that is what Southgate will do. I think I don't think you can't not play Foden. You can't not play Saka. It's kind of they've gotten to that point at club level where their form coming into the World Cup has made them pick themselves. And then with Mount, I genuinely would have liked to see Maddison over Mount, but obviously he's injured and he's not really part of that England squad yet. So it will be Mount. And that, to be honest, if that team comes out and starts tomorrow, I wouldn't actually be that fussed at all. I think it's a very, very dangerous squad with a lot of good balance and good depth to it. With players like Grealish coming off the bench as well, it's attacking, it's fluid, it's nice, it's a good team.
Yeah, I agree. John Morrell says Foden is the most skillful attacker player on from that part of the pitch, yet really to do it for England shirt, which is true. In indifferent Euros, he was okay without being particularly special. Mick, could you shoehorn your mate Jack in there at all, or is he good? Is he better for England as an impact player?
Yeah, he needs to practice his rolling up and down touchline for a bit, doesn't he? Before he comes on. So no, he can't be rolling about straight out of the box. It's just not. Jack.
It's refereeing from today continues. He could.
Well, I mean, to be fair, that Qatari player is still rolling, isn't he? Who got fouled in the second half. And bear in mind, Jack's got to do his hair as well. He's got to get that sorted before he gets on pitch. So that middle three, that forward three, if you like, for me, I agree pretty much with what most people have said in that Saka and Foden definitely should be there. But I would have Bellingham in there as well. I would have Bellingham in the middle, sitting just in front of Rice and Phillips, frankly. That would be my view.
That's not bad.
But I don't think that Gareth Southgate would. I cannot see Gareth Southgate or any England manager for that matter ever playing three such talented players all together in the same team. I just can't see it.
No.
Genuinely, and I know that sounds a bit cynical, but you look back through history, and England's benches throughout the history of international competition have been riddled with incredibly talented players who never get an opportunity. And those three, for me, are probably three of the most talented English players about at the moment. I think they're exciting. They're young. They're exciting. They're ambitious. They've got everything. They've got pace. They've got skill. They've got everything that you want from midfield players. But I don't think he'll play them all. He should, in my view, but I don't think he will. So we'll see. He will lump for somebody like Sterling or Grealish.
I was about to say, Raheem Sterling is again one of his favourites.
And I have nothing against Raheem Sterling. I think he's a very, very good player, but unfortunately, he's coming towards the twilight of his career. And
he's also not had a very good season either.
And he's not had a particularly good season. He's moved to Chelsea. It's just not. Saka, Bellingham, Foden, they're your three. They're the three that will see England into the latter stages of this World Cup if they're given the opportunity. But I suspect they won't be.
Yeah. Well, if we go with the formation we mentioned, you've got Marcus Rashford to come on late on as a substitute, or Jack Grealish to come on late on as a substitute. Some great options to come on there at some point as well.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. That's what we think starting 11. I'm sure everybody else will disagree with us.
Probably wrong.
Yeah. You are. Yeah, exactly. You are wrong. Yeah, we'll watch England tomorrow. I remember the game at the Euros. We beat Croatia 1-0. People still lost their minds because it wasn't fun enough or exciting enough. If you get to the final, it's a 7-game tournament. Don't worry about it. As long as 3 points up board, it doesn't matter. Just try and enjoy it. I know most people won't enjoy it, but it's a World Cup. Once every 4 years, try and enjoy it. Try and ignore the politics for 90 minutes if you possibly can. Again, I know it's difficult. Any other mentions or comments or queries anybody wants to bring up before we wrap up this hour-long not a monologue, obviously, because there's more than one of us.
I just like to say that tonight I feel like a bold man.
I see what you've done there.
I'm not going to get one, but anyway, and I don't think my wife would be particularly pleased. But either way, I feel like a bold man.
Oof. Simon Thorne finally says Wales now. Please be kind to me. He thinks Wales are quarter-finalists. Everybody else thinks he's mad. I think you're mad. I can't. They will. For me, they'll probably finish bottom with a group. I like America. Iran are solid. Bottom group.
No chance.
No, I mean, I don't want Wales to get out of the group purely for what Kiefer Moore said today about Wales.
Now remember. Now remember English team,
it's like now remember, Kiefer, you appeared for England's C team, so
exactly.
So yes, I hope Wales lose. So yeah, because of Kiefer.
Ian Bradley says to Mick, thank you for your comments he had on his Grimsby and Stevenage vlog. He very much pretty mixed comments.
Get yourselves onto YouTube after you've watched this and have a look at that. Ian's doing a bit of a tour of the lower league grounds whilst the World Cup's on. Obviously, I'll not be going down to Swillsborough, I wouldn't have thought, because I understand they're still playing as well.
Are they? What a massive club like that still playing?
Yeah.
Mate, we've gone the whole time without upsetting at least 3 countries. Let's not start upsetting teams.
No, in all seriousness, have a gander at that. Some good stuff from Ian. Do some good work during the course of the World Cup, because I know he's not a big fan of the World Cup at the moment.
No, understandable. John Morrell, lower league grounds when you're off to Derby.
Listen, the phrase is "make hay while the sun shines."
So yeah, we will come back on Thursday. We're back on the normal day. We're back on Thursday evening, which will be a preview of England and Iran. Plus, we'll pick up any highlights from the days in between. We'll be then back next week on Sunday. The FA Cup third round draw is next week, not the week coming, the week after. So that we will have some Rotherham stuff to talk about. Again, any Rotherham stuff that crops up, as we've already mentioned, that does take priority over the World Cup because we're a Rotherham podcast. If you're interested, we've obviously put the shirts out. I think we're S66 Sportswear. We've sort of joined up with to do some match wear. I don't think that's the quite word for it, but anyway, I think it looks quite cool with our podcast logo on them. 50% of any profits we make will go to Rotherham Hospice because we obviously like to help them wherever we can. So check that out on our Twitter page or just go on S66 Sports website. It's all on there. So yeah, thank you very much, Michael. It's been a pleasure to have you with us. Yeah.
Really?
Well, you got your Red Bull, you got your swiping it on Red Bull, didn't you?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I could get that. I'm not going to get another swipe at Carolina until January, till March, am I? So I need to get it in.
Yeah, I'm not sure everybody agrees with you, but anyway, doesn't matter.
I really don't care.
I know you don't. Danny, it's been a pleasure, and thankfully we were only 1 minute on whether you can watch the game tomorrow, but you are allowed to watch the England game tomorrow, which is positive.
Yes, I'm heading up to the Brentwoods to go and watch it with a few of the pals, so there will be beer and chicken wings, hopefully. And speaking of beer, I've been brought a gift from heaven. I've been brought, darling, get in. Lovely stuff.
We were going to switch off, but John Morell's rightly said we haven't done score predictions. Tom, you've said 0-0.
Yes.
Right. So, Tom, 0-0. Danny?
I'll go for a 1-1.
1-1. Boring if you're all. Mick?
Pessimistic gits. It's me that's supposed to be really negative up here in the top corner. 4-0 England.
4-0 England. Look at this. Where's this positive Mick been all season? I will go 3-1. I think we will go to an early goal, and then I think it'll come good at the end. Ian Bradley reckons 1-0 to the England. Simon Thorne says 2-0. Positivity. John Morell says carling is not a gift.
John, you put the words right out of my mouth. I mean, I didn't want to bust his bubble, to be honest with you, but you're right. It's absolutely.
Sometimes beer is beer, innit? So
I don't know whether you've seen that on Twitter about the goalkeeper from one of the non-league sides.
Yeah, that was bad. That.
Oh yeah.
Well, somebody has just done exactly the same to you there, Danny.
I mean, it's a gift from my mother. She's been out with my granddad and been to the shop and gone, "Oh, I'll buy Danny some beer." So to me, it's still a gift, so it's fine. I
apologise to your mum.
This is my gift.
Did you know what you said? It was dissing her gift. Who is it now? In the scope, it's John Morell, the Birmingham fan. We're playing Birmingham later in year away, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Got it now, John.
Oh, brilliant. Right. There we go. Let's move on. Thank you all for being with us. Tom, it's great to have you on tonight. Nice debut. Thank you very much for being with us, and we'll see you again in the future as well.
Yeah, hopefully.
Please do subscribe on the YouTube channel if you haven't done already. We're creeping up slowly to 800, so please do subscribe on there. If you're on audio listeners, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you are, please do subscribe to those as well. And like I said, we're back on Thursday evening / Friday morning to preview America. I think it is on Friday, England-America. Obviously review the England-Iran game. Thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
All right, cheers. Bye.
Ravel, ambitious, brilliant. Mule with it. Wood's got around the back, and Richie Wood has done it again. The magic man has come up with another trick. Well, here's a chance to seal it. It's done. It's Georgie Kelly.